speaking about that mainstream media over here, the news about new businesses, new business is getting grimmer. And what this is talking about, Glenn Greenwald did an amazing episode about this the other day, talking about all these layoffs, particularly in the leftist mainstream media sphere. Sports Illustrated almost closed, if they haven't closed by now. Time Magazine, the Los Angeles Times had big layoffs. All these leftist shows or networks or propaganda outlets, as I like to call them, were having major, major layoffs. And a lot of people were saying that was due to the fact that they stink. And a lot of people don't want to listen to what they have to say. Well, that is somewhat true, but I look at it in a different way, right? For some people, they're immediately celebrating. They're putting on the little hat, the little blowing the confetti all over the place and going, yeah, ding dong, the witch is dead. But I say we need to be very suspicious and very cautious about what this is about. Because even though these outlets are closing, and I believe Business Insider, who's had a hit piece on me, had some major layoffs, and we could be happy because all they were looking to do was kind of, what's the word? Smear me and discredit me when it came to talking about the Nicaraguan election, which was one of the best elections I've witnessed. Um, Even though they're trying to smear me and that's their job, you can't say and look at this and say this is just about their performance. It's about what is next. Where are the ruling classes trying to move us? When I say classes, I mean in the West, in Europe, in the United States. What's their next move? And though it might appear that this was a victory for citizen journalists and independent media like myself, I look at it another way. Take a look at this article right over here. And this is just a blog from Marie Baran. And I looked her up. You know, she seems to be pretty credible. She has her own thing going on. She's not really working for any mainstream media outlets. But it says right here, AI is coming for journalism. Here's how to save your job. And this is what I am talking about when I say we can't get the party hats out. We can't celebrate just crazy right now that the mainstream media on the left is taking a blow, because maybe it's more about this. We understand, those of us who watch shows like this and the other sphere of influencers or whatever you want to call us, or citizen journalists out there, that the mainstream media is nothing more than propaganda. They work at the behest of the corporations, at the behest of the ruling class, and their job isn't to report the news, it's to spew a certain narrative, which is very friendly to who? The corporations, right? There are no real states anymore. There's just oligarchs out there. And this is something we have to pay attention to, because I think that this move right now of all these layoffs is not so much about their performance. It's just about moving them to AI. Why do they need actual bodies, warm bodies, and journalists to do the job that AI can do? It's much cheaper, much more efficient, and quite frankly, probably better than a lot of the things some of these human beings are saying. And as we know, the AI that's here now is not really so much thinking for itself. It already has certain biases that are planted into the AI. And with those biases, they spit out certain narratives just a little bit more eloquently. I remember when I was starting my YouTube page before I went to work with Jimmy, and I was trying to figure out what I can do moving forward. And I used AI to write my topic, not my topic, but my description. And it really spit out something cool. I put something into the chat GPI, and it came out with something nice. So instead of, getting out the party whistles, like I said, we should pay attention to this. AI is coming, and there's a lot of dangers when AI is driving the wheel. Not to mention there'll be a lot less jobs out there. Now, my good friend Wyatt Reed, who I've had on this show before, he's been on the Convo Couch. I've done elections in Nicaragua and in Honduras with Wyatt. He covered the second round of Colombia. He works for the Gray Zone now. At one point, he did work for Sputnik. I mean, he's just awesome. He says he's not so much worried about AI because he believes that the true citizen journalists like us will still be able to keep our job, because we understand that AI has this bias that is kind of like programmed on the back end. So it's there to just continue to keep that narrative out there, but just be a little bit more clever and efficient by doing so. But my friend Wyatt said, he doesn't care, because jobs like us, the real truth out there, that's what they're trying to hide. They're trying to stop us from getting out there and giving you guys information. Information right now is so valuable. It's more valuable than gold and silver because you can control certain things with information. If you control the narrative, you control the people. So let's look at this here. This is by Marie Baran. She says journalism may have found the story of the century as it reports on its own demise. While statistics have most frequently pointed to AI and automation replacing jobs in sectors such as manufacturing, we're now experiencing the arrival of sophisticated text generation tools. For example, OpenAI's ChatGPT, what I just talked about, that can write reasonably convincing articles. And when you say reasonably convincing articles, it's they're doing the same thing that the people were doing, the little puppets, uh, and now they're doing it more efficiently, quickly, and this is something that's very scary. In addition to downsizing of newsrooms around the world due to shrinking budgets and closing publications, the threat of replacement by automation is another worry the jobbing journalist doesn't need. And the last 20 years in the US alone, journalism has lost more jobs than the coal industry, noted David Rubin, the CMO of the New York Times. I think one of the reasons too, as well, and she had mentioned that it's replacing the automation, right? One of the reasons why they want to do it is not that it's just cheaper and more efficient, because a lot of the ruling class that control these media aspects, they're working for the people who print the money. I don't think money is the issue as much as that you have people who turn. In other words, they were in this whole propaganda mechanism. They based their whole careers on trying to get jobs at CNN and MSNBC, maybe even Fox. So they spewed a certain narrative. Just the other day, when I was on with Garland Nixon and his show, Critical Hour with Dr. William Leon, we were talking about the fact that, and Garland did some work at Fox, is that on screen, people are very different than off screen. In other words, off screen, a lot of these people will give their true opinions, but on screen, they stick to the narrative. Why? Because they depend upon that paycheck. Whereas if independent media like us and Garland Nixon and Dr. Wilmer, Leon, they can speak the truth. In fact, the reason why you follow me or follow a Jimmy Dore or Kim Iverson or Fiorella or Kit and all these other people is because we are telling the truth. We are actually acting as the fourth estate, which is also important why you support us as best you can. We are providing a service, and it's not like we just want to get paid because we think we deserve to get paid. We want you to help us and support us because we're the only true fourth estate out there that can go out there and give you those stories. Maj Touré said it perfectly once before. It's going to depend upon you, the audience, to say, hey, man, I'm going to give you guys a few bucks to go over there and report on what's happening. And we've been able to do that with elections beautifully. I can't thank you guys enough. But would you really understand and know how good those elections are in Latin America, in which Joe Biden himself and the whole propaganda media apparatus were saying are pantomime elections? No, you paid me, Johnny, and Fee to go over there and report, and we were showing you with footage going, look, they actually have a good election. We can do this at home. And it plays both ways. It's double effective because, number one, it shows just how phony our elections are. But they say their elections are the most safe elections of all time. That's what they said last time, right? But you can make your own opinion on that. And it also shows that Latin America is actually going around and trying to have a real democracy. Isn't it crazy that Nicaragua has more of a representative democracy than the United States? And we were able to show that on your dime. So thank you so much. Let's continue with this here. In the last 20 years, the U.S. alone has lost more jobs than the coal industry. I wanted to put that in there again because that should be mind-blowing. So does the rapid evolution of generative predictive text algorithms spell the end for human journalists? Not necessarily, but it almost certainly will replace elements of their job because it will replace the propagandists right away. Now, Congress is going to kind of go and pick at this. It's very interesting, the state of Congress, the way it's at right now, right? So we have a Congress that we understand that will ask certain questions. I think they want to appear to be legit, and where their constituents are saying, well, how come you're not looking into this? How come you're not looking into that? They'll eventually get there. Also, they'll use it to play team sports. Guys like Josh Hawley will use it right now and go, look what's going on in the liberal media. But as soon as they get a chance, right? And Josh Hawley showed his true colors when he went after the Singaporean CEO of TikTok and tried to equate him to the Chinese Communist Party, right? And he tried to pass a bill that didn't mention the parent name for TikTok, the company that owns it, nor TikTok itself. It was just more about infringing on your freedoms, going in and looking at what you're watching, what you're paying attention to. Josh Hawley showed his true colors there. And I think a lot of the Republicans who are free speech absolutists when it comes to, other areas, Ukraine or things that they're against, and, all their culture war stuff, when it came to Israel Palestine, all of a sudden, from the river to the sea was now a toxic line, and you couldn't use it, even though Netanyahu went and said it's okay for Israel to use it. In other words, I think a lot of the Republicans, the populist right, who appeared to be anti-war, showed their true colors. They might appear to be for free speech, but they were okay with censoring speech that comes out from Palestinians, China, Iran. So they really show their true colors all the time. But this did happen, and this just happened the other day. Expert warned Congress of the danger AI poses to journalism. I think a lot of these people want to talk about this because they want to get a hold of it for themselves and use this mechanism themselves. AI poses a grave threat to journalism, experts warned Congress at a hearing on Wednesday. Media executives and academic experts testified before the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Privacy, Technology, and Law about how AI is contributing to the big tech-fueled decline of journalism. They also talked about the intellectual property issues arising from AI models being trained on the work of journalists, and raised alarms about increasing dangers of AI-powered misinformation. It's really, really a powerful thing. And I think you can benefit a lot from watching a lot of these hearings. I'm one of those guys who's a little nutsos about these, right? I watched a ton of these hearings. I watched a ton on COVID. I watched a ton on elections. I watched a ton when it came to censorship. One of my things that I have to do, and one of my good friends says, Pastor, you need to read more books, right? Well, he is right there, because there's words I have a hard time saying. They get stuck on my Brooklyn tongue, and my vocabulary can always increase, and the way I say things can always improve, and I'm all about that. But one thing I didn't lack on was watching hearings like this, because I want to look somebody in their eyes. When they're saying something, I used to play a lot of poker, right? So it used to be about reading the person. That's where I use my talents in this field right here, watching these hearings. You watch these hearings, they might be trying to drive the bus to a certain area, like they're saying about intellectual property or AI misinformation, AI-powered misinformation, but it's hard to hide things, their true feelings on their face. So I used to watch a lot of these hearings when they would censor, I would call them the lords of technology, Mark Zuckerberg or Jack Dorsey at the time, and I forgot the guy's name from Google, but they would summon them to Capitol Hill so they can have conversations about there. Now, a lot of the Democrats, like AOC, who sent out a letter saying, you need to report people. It's okay to deplatform these people. They were not free speech absolutists. I once asked Kamala Harris, when I had a question with her before she was the vice president, if she was sure on her comments that she had made about deplatforming Donald Trump, and she was okay with it. A lot of their tactics or a lot of their goals and what they want to accomplish comes out. They might try to hide it, but it comes out. And they also might say things that might get them brownie points politically towards their constituents. So they'll say those things, but they won't back them up with their actions. The rise of big tech has been directly responsible for the decline in local news, said Senator Richard Blumenthal, who's one of the worst. Pro-Ukraine, Richard Blumenthal, just awful censorship guy, deplatform. I mean, Richard Blumenthal is a Connecticut Democrat and the chair of the subcommittee. He is one of the worst, ladies and gentlemen. We really need to expose this guy for himself. First, Meta, Google, and OpenAI are using the hard work of newspapers and authors to train their AI models without compensation or credit. So now you can see that I think that people like Richard Blumenthal, or Dick Blumenthal, whatever you want to call him, are wanting to make sure that they have control over the fourth estate. The fourth estate has been gone for quite some time. That's what the media is supposed to be. Shows like this, shows like the mainstream media, even in fact, are supposed to be put in play and watched to hold the government accountable. This is more of the government making sure that they can have control. Adding insult to injury, those models are then used to compete with newspapers and broadcasters. cannibalizing readership and revenue from the journalistic institutions that generate the content in the first place. So this is Richard Blumenthal, once again, being as hypocritical as can be. Because Richard Blumenthal, he's saying right now, he's advocating as if he wants the people to have jobs in the newspapers and the TV shows and whatnot, but he only wants those who repeat their propaganda to have a job. He's not a free speech absolutist. He wouldn't want to conduct. He would be okay with my show taken down. He'd be okay with Jimmy and Kim taken down, but he won't be okay with you taking down, MSNBC or CNN, because they are doing the work of the ruling class, the guys, the donors who pay Richard Blumenthal's bills. So let me get over here right now for the green screen. So that is our first segment of the day. To wrap it back up, to put a bow on it, it's all about not celebrating too early, to understand what is coming. We have to understand when something happens that might appear to look good. And look, BuzzFeed, the Daily Beast, a Business Insider, they've all written hit pieces on me personally. I mean, the Business Insider one was to attack me on elections. And more than anything, it wanted to discredit the Nicaraguan elections. And, they went after me because they understood really quickly, somebody in the State Department or the deep state understood that a guy like Pasta Jardula understands elections, and he has a broad coalition of people he speaks to. Remember, I would speak at the American Project, which was a Patrick Byrne and George Flynn, or George Flynn's brother, General Flynn's brother. I don't know if it's George Flynn, sorry. General Flynn's brother. That was their outlet. So I was going and speaking to a lot of Trumpers. Plus, I had a lot of lefties who were a part of the election integrity game from the get-go, because it used to be a progressive issue. So Business Insider, and I did the interview from Nicaragua, went to attack me because they didn't want me to solidify or lift up or praise the Nicaraguan election, because they were going against it, because they wanted Nicaragua to be looked upon, and it's still looked upon by a lot of people in America, as evil, as a dictatorship, as authoritarian. No, they have a better representation of democracy than we do. So that is what is going on. So even though these outlets are closing, I think personally, and you can have your own opinion, it's more about them just being crap outlets and spewing propaganda that the people have caught on to and don't want to listen to anymore. It's more about, in my book, and watching and keeping a close eye on them consolidating all these journalists that they want, have a small amount of them, and moving to the AI that will be just as effective, if not better, and be able to push out stuff quickly, the propaganda they need right there. And that is very dangerous. The more we go to AI, especially when it comes to journalism, AI shouldn't be involved in journalism whatsoever. Maybe help rewriting stuff, is that, and making it more mellifluous and stuff, but it shouldn't be involved in actual journalism and reporting. That should be the citizen journalist. YouTube still plays those crazy games where they like to unsubscribe people for whatever reason. I don't know if it's part of an algorithm or whatnot, but make sure you're subscribed and make sure you hit that bell and like, share, subscribe to the show. We're going to have this whole show clipped up. We're going to do it the same way we've been doing it on the Convo Couch for many years. We do a whole show, a live show, and then we have certain segments. We're going to repost the segments out there so you can share the shorter versions of the subjects that you like or that you want to share. And that's the most important thing you can do. A lot of us don't have any coin to spare, but we can share, right? That rhymed. We don't have any coin to spare, but we can share. So do me a favor and share, share, share.